going to start Nun Gimel Amid Aleph, that's 53a. And it's, how many lines down was that? 17 lines down. The line starts at Drana. We start with Boimine Rav Yemer Saba, Rav Nachman. So we thank Hashem, we're able to learn every day. And then the schus of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. So we start off like this. Boimine Rav Yemer Saba, Rav Nachman. Rav Yemer Saba asks from Rav Nachman. Makra ksubasa l'bayla. Let's say the woman sold her ksuba to her own husband. Now, what that would mean, let's spell this out. What's supposed to happen is that if he divorces her or he dies, she takes the ksuba. What she's saying when she's selling it to her husband is that if he dies, she's not going to take the ksuba. Or if he divorced her, she's not going to, that doesn't make sense. But I guess that's what he's saying. She divorced her, she's not going to take the ksuba. Well, his question is, what about her sons? Her sons are supposed to get the dowry. The dowry that she brings into the marriage is not supposed to be divided amongst the other sons. But she's already sold the ksuba back to the husband. So in the ksuba, there's these little details. So when she sells the ksuba back to the husband, does that detail go along with that ksuba, and therefore the sons don't inherit the dowry independent of the other inheritors? Or does it get divided equally? Because everything belongs to the husband now. Okay, you see what's really happening now. The case just shifted on us. When she sells the ksuba to the husband, that means that the husband dies and she doesn't end up taking it. When the Gemara is asking, does she have the sons have the binyan dichrin, the binyan dichrin, the male sons get the dowry? That's talking about where he dies. She also dies. The husband dies. Well, now it's talking about where she dies and then he dies. And now the question is, how does his inheritance? So she's passing away first. The case shifted, but the question is the same. Okay. Amalei Rava, so Rava says to, I guess, Rav Yemer Saba, says, "V'tavalach mechelas." Why are you asking about if she sold the ksuba? What's the halacha? She sold the ksuba to the husband. Let's say she was just meichel the ksuba. Meichel means she forgoes. She forgoes on the ksuba. You can keep it. Don't worry. Such a good husband. If you divorce me or if you pass away, I'm not going to take the money. I'll let the kids just inherit everything. Well, and now the question would be, what about her own sons? There's a rival wives that have others. What about her own sons regarding the dowry that she brought in? Amalei, so Rav Yemer Saba responded, Hashta mecheres kami bayli. If I have a question about mecheres, when she sells it, the afal gav dikala me mezuzi ansua, the mina command come machala meoch libuchla. I'm comparing this, he says, if she's selling it, she needs the money. She's not giving up on everything. She just needs whatever she can get a hold of. And she's selling it to the husband. She needs some cash for whatever reason that the husband's not giving to her. So she says, you know what, you can keep the rights to the ksuba. And so that way she walks out with a little, as if she's being beaten 100 hits with the ukhla, some sort of whip with the weight at the end. So, and if in that case, there's a possibility that maybe she's given up on the dowry going to her own sons, even though she's only doing it because she needs the money. If she's being meichel the ksuba, she's not even gaining anything from it. She's just doing it out of the goodness of her heart. Just you let all the kids take everything. So then, for sure, her own sons are not going to take the dowry if she's already to give up the ksuba. Okay. Right.
So is that in the pursuit itself?
Yeah.
If she sells the pursuit, she's selling that, right?
That the Gemara is going to discuss soon. But she still get Mezainis. Yeah. Right. Amar Rava. Rava says pshitali. Rava says it's obvious to me that mecheres ksubas al acherim, that if she sells the ksuba outside, in other words, someone took a little risk here on this purchase. She sells the ksuba. Now, if the husband dies, then she should be taking the ksuba. But instead of her taking it, she sold it to someone else. Someone else is going to get it. She takes the money now, and someone else may get that. But the risk is that she may die, and then there is no ksuba. And then the guy loses out on that whole transaction. So someone just paid her money for the possibility that if the husband dies, this other guy will end up with the 200 zuz. There's a risk in that. Go around buying people's ksubas. The risk, well, if someone is interested in his dying, right?
It's reminding me of life insurance.
Yeah, the life insurance thing, right? So mecheres ksubas al acherim. If her ksuba, she sells it to other people. Well, yesh ksubas binyan dichrin. Her sons will still inherit that. There's a clause in the ksuba that says that her male descendants will inherit the dowry, and not divide it amongst the other siblings. And the reason is, my time is Uzi Ansua. Why did she sell it? She needed the money. She wasn't giving up her rights for her own children to get the dowry. She just needed the money now, so she sold it. But if she forgoes on the ksuba to her husband, then she is giving up the rights to her sons inheriting the dowry. Now, this is really interesting. It's confusing because is it her rights or is it her son's rights? Apparently, it's her rights that are coming through. It's her son's rights that are coming through her. She can give up on that, and then the children lose out. Well, my time, she's giving up on the ksuba. Okay. By Rava, but Rava's question is mecheres ksubas l'bayla. Let's see, she sells the ksuba to her own husband. She wants the cash now, and what she's saying that if the husband dies, she'll leave the ksuba for the children. She won't take it. Is that considered like she sold it out and she just needs the money, and she's not forgoing on for the sons taking the dowry? Is that considered like she is forgoing on the ksuba? She's selling it to her own husband. It's sort of like Michael. You won't have to. The fact is, she's still taking money. But basid de boy had pshita. But after he asked the question, then he answered. He says, "This is Rava. Mecheres ksuba lebailak mecheres lacherim dami." Selling it to her husband is like selling it outside. Okay, Masiv Ravidi Baravin. Ravidi Baravin has a question. This question is like this: based on the logic that we said, that if the reason why she sold the ksuba was because she needed money, then the sons still inherit the dowry because she wasn't being Michael everything. She wasn't giving up on everything. She was just she just needed the money. She was compelled to do this because of the money that she needed right now. The pressure of the money that she needed right now. But she wasn't giving up on that right. Well, the question goes like this. It says that if a woman gets remarried after hearing that her husband passed away, and then she finds out that her husband did not really pass away, and now she has a second husband while her first husband's still alive. That's a big problem. So it says she has to get divorced from him, and she doesn't get a ksuba because it's considered like adultery. And what does it say further? Ein yarshim shel zeh, ein yarshim shel zeh yarshim ksubasa. If she dies, the inheritors don't inherit the ksuba. Neither husband and neither ksuba. Inheritors of this one or of that one don't inherit her ksuba. There is no ksuba. And second, Va'avinaba, Ksubasa Mayavidite. What are you talking about? That they don't inherit her ksuba. There is no ksuba. I guess I would have said that's what it means. In Yershin Shalzev, in Yershin Ksubasa. I guess the Gemara is asking that if there's no ksuba, then why do you have to say these inheritors and those inheritors don't inherit the ksuba? Well, Amar of Papa explained ksuba's opinion different. We're talking about the dowry. She loses out on the dowry staying in her family. It gets divided. The dowry that she brought into, which probably the first marriage gets the dowry. The dowry that she brought in stays with the husband's family. It was supposed to stay in her family with her own children, but it ends up getting spread out amongst all the other wives' children. Well, yeah, a portion, a percentage. Well, what's the problem over here? If the reason why a person loses the binyan dichrin, the dowry that she's supposed to go to the sons, the male son, that's only because she forgoes on it. But if she was compelled because of money, then she doesn't forgo on her own sons keeping it. So hachanami lema yetzer say, why'd she get married? The Yetzer Hara didn't want her to stay alone, so she got married. She didn't. The reason why what's going on over here is that there was only one witness that told us that the husband died. We didn't have two witnesses, so she should have done a better investigation before she got remarried. She just rushed into a new marriage without really finding out. This is like buying something, not checking out the kashrus. Let's just quickly get it. I wasn't supposed to do that. She's supposed to make the right calls and investigate. She didn't do that, so she loses out. But it was her Yetzer Hara that forced her. It's not that she's forgoing the dowry. Just like no, we're saying that if she's forced because of money, so she still gets the dowry. So here also she was forced. Not she, the children, the male son should get the dowry. The Gemara says that the comparison is not correct because Hasam Knasu the Konsur Rabbanan. Over there, that was a Knas. That was a penalty that they put on her because she did not do the proper investigation. So she loses out on the ksuba, and not only on the ksuba, she loses out on the dowry as well. That was an extra penalty. Yosef Ravin Bar Chanina Kameder of Chisda v'Yosef Kama Mishmeder Rabbi Lazar. Okay, Ravin Bar Chanina sitting in front of Rav Chisda, and he's saying something in the name of Rabbi Lazar. Mechelas ksuba salabayla. If a woman forgoes her ksuba, ein la mezainas, so she doesn't get fed either. This can't be while she's alive, while the husband's alive, because I think the Torah, that's an obligation from the Torah that he has to feed her. She'era was mezainas, right? Right, it was food. Yeah. So we're talking about what she's supposed to get after she passes away, after the husband passes away. She's supposed to continue to eat from the estate, live off the estate. So she was already moichel the ksuba while she was alive, while he was alive. Now she doesn't get the food because she already gave up on that. If you didn't tell this to me in the name of a great person, I would have said differently. I would have said that he's repaying evil for good, that bad would not depart from his house. That means that she was Michael the ksuba to him. She forgave him the ksuba, and now he's not gonna feed her. He just saved him 200 zuz. She saved him 200 zuz. He should feed her. He shouldn't take advantage of her. Okay. Yosef Rav Nachman Abula Va'avimi Bar Rav Papi Yosef Rav Chia Barami Gabayo. Okay, Rav Nachman and Ula, Ravimi Bar Rav Papi and Rav Chia Barami are amongst them. Also Gavra the Shchiva Rusase. Okay, we throw in a little complication here. Someone walks in that his betrothed wife had just passed away. This is things get complicated here. The ksuba is supposed to be after the marriage. After the kedushin, then if he wanted, he could have written the ksuba, but he doesn't have to. The ksuba is not by the erisin, by the kedushin. But if he writes it, then if he can obligate himself, he doesn't have to obligate himself. If he does obligate himself from the kedushin, then officially she's only going to get 100 or 200, not any tesefes, not all the additional things that get added on. Well, what happens the opposite way? Now, it's not that he passed away and she's claiming a ksuba. She passed away. So, Amrilei, they told him, Zil kavar, I have the ksuba. Go bury her or give her the ksuba. What does it mean, give her the ksuba? I guess they meant spend the money of the ksuba because she's not around. What does it mean, give her the ksuba? To the heirs. What does it mean, give the heirs the ksuba? Amlu Rav Chia, so Rav Chia, it says Rav Chia Barami was sitting there. It says, Tanina, I have a Mishnah. Could be a brisa, it's a Mishnah, I guess. Ishtei arusa, lei einen v'lei metamala. If he's a kayan, or let's say, and his betrothed wife passed away, so officially he's supposed to become contaminated, even though he's a kayan, to his wife. But this was not his wife. This is only his betrothed wife. It wasn't fully. So it says in the pasuk she'era, share. What's the pasuk? Share besara. Get the pasuk. But there it says who the kayan is supposed to be: father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter, wife. Over there it says that it has to be the actual wife.
If he becomes tummy, how about the corpse?
Yeah, the kayan is supposed to. The husband is supposed to take care of the funeral, and it's actually a mitzvah for him to become contaminated to that close relative, his wife.
They didn't have like a Chevra Kaddish or something.
Yeah, the Chevra Kaddish. He doesn't have to. He can use the Chevra Kaddish also, but he goes to the funeral. It's not like he stays at home. Well, he doesn't become a. If it's an arusa loy einen, he doesn't become an einen. Einen is an intense state of mourning. Loy metamala, and he does not become contaminated to her. And she does not become contaminated to him. Now the truth is she's allowed to, even if she's a kohenes, she's allowed to. She's saying she's not obligated because you don't have the obligation would be on a close relative. This is not yet a close relative, it's just like engaged sort of. Well, Mesa, what happens if she passes away? Eina Yarsha. Eina Yarsha. He does not inherit it. Mace who? If he dies, gave a ksubasa. Then she gets the ksuba. Okay, now it would only be if he had agreed to the ksuba. Well, time of the mace who? That's if he dies. Hamesahi, but if she dies, ain't la ksuba. There is no ksuba. My timer. She never gets a ksuba if she dies. What's this concept? If the heir is taking the ksuba.
He wrote it though?
He wrote a ksuba.
If he died, she collects the marriage. Maybe I'm talking about
He died.
if he died, she collects the marriage. No, that's the other way.
Maybe ksuba, what it means over here, maybe the pshat is, what it means is, when we referring to the word the ksuba, maybe it doesn't mean the 200 zuz, maybe it means the dowry.
Oh.
Could you have a dowry instead of 200 zuz?
No, yeah, it's a plus.
Plus.
What happens is she brings the dowry in, then if she dies, then her family should really get the dowry back, unless they were fully married.
Oh.
If they're fully married, then he keeps the dowry. And if there was a male sons, then the dowry goes, when he dies, goes to the sons, only those sons. But if they were only betrothed, then the dowry should really go back to her family
Mhm.
because they never really married. So now we're asking that, right?
Didn't we talk about if someone gets divorced from somebody, but they're not fully married, they just were betrothed, you have to give a get?
The get you have to get.
So can we say maybe like there's a kalpachomer, maybe just,
There's a
Yeah,
get, there's money.
I mean, doesn't
Well, he we're
Can't
thinking
point
that
out
he
the-
agreed to the ksuba also.
Ksuba,
But 1 second. Now she's died, she passed away. And we're saying that if he would have passed away, then she would have been able to collect the basic ksuba. But now that she passed away, so there is no ksuba. Okay. So my timer, what's the reason for this? Amar Rav Oshia, she'ena nikoira ba l'kashetinasi la'acher titli mashakasav l'chim. In the ksuba, it's written that when you'll get married to, if you get married to someone else, I guess it means when you're able to get married to someone else. It means like when I divorce you, then I'll give you what I agreed to. And since she died, she can't get married to someone else. So that stipulation never plays out. So then she never gets anything. So that's what it means that there's no ksuba. Okay. What happened with the kvura? Oh, that's his question. This is his question. Why are you saying that he has to bury? We have a Mishnah that says that he doesn't have to bury. The ksuba and the kvura go together. If the arusa, if the betrothed woman dies, she doesn't get a ksuba, which means the burial. He doesn't have to pay for a burial. So Amalu Abaya says to Ravin was a traveler, and he brought statements from Rish Lakish. So he brings the statement that if the betrothed wife passed away, the husband doesn't need to pay for a burial. Amalu Abaya Zilu Amri Lay, go tell to Ravin Shkila Tivusach, go take the good things that you brought. Shadi Achizri, how do they translate Achizri? Spread it over.
is it cast on thorns?
Thorns. Cast it over the thorns. We already have in Bavel, we already have Rav Oshia that explained the salacha to us, that the husband doesn't need to pay for the burial of this betrothed wife. Okay.
So it seems like the phrase is used a lot.
Yeah. The problem is that there's the basic ksuba, and then there's all these fine print of the ksuba that.
Like that, it sounds like there's also just rights and obligations.
Right.
That aren't written down anywhere.
Right. Yeah. What happened in this Gemara is that he's reading the ksuba, and he's based on the reading of the text of the ksuba, he's coming out with halacha that because she's not going to be able to get married because she died, so then she doesn't get the rights to the ksuba, which means that he doesn't have to pay for her burial. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. The female children that you have for me, I'll support. This is part of the ksuba. They're just going to support the female children even after he passes. After he passes away, they can still eat from his estate. Well, Rav Tani Adjetilkachen legufrin. Rav says that's only until, or it says over there in the ksuba, until they get taken by a husband. So they can eat from the estate until they get married. Which part of the marriage is the tilach and legufrin? It's probably the erisin, the first part, the kedushin, the betrothal. That then they're already out of the father's estate. But Levi Tani Adjetilkachen, Levi says until they reach maturity. L'Rav Afalgav the Bagar. What does that mean? You're telling me a machlekes. What does Rav say? After they reach maturity, they're still eating from the father's estate. They should go get a job. The Levi Afalgav the Insev, and Levi that says until they reach maturity. 1 second, if they got married, they're still eating from the father's estate. In other words, the fact that they didn't say both of them, each didn't say both of them. We're asking, and the other one, what would he hold about the other case? Ella baga v'lei insiv v'lei baga de kuli amalei pligi. Turns out everyone agrees with with each other. If she reached maturity, the father doesn't support her. The estate doesn't support her. If she gets married, the estate doesn't support her. Keep pligi. Where's the machlekes? Barusa v'lei baga. If she didn't reach maturity, but she did get betrothed. So here we're going to have a machlekes. Levi said, until you reach maturity, and the time for the marriage has arrived. In other words, for Levi, and you need the time of the marriage. But the Gemara says, 1 second. Once you reach maturity, then you don't need that. Tarti, the Gemara asks, 2 things. Either maturity, or according to Levi, when it's the Nesuin, when she gets married. That's when, or if she's underage, she's under 12 and a half, but she's married, then the estate doesn't support her. But if she's only betrothed, the estate still supports her. And according to Rav said that Tilak and Laguvan, until they get betrothed, she gets taken by a man. That the betrothal is when she's taken. The Nesuin is the full marriage. For Rav, once she's betrothed, then she doesn't eat from the estate anymore. Where it says Kitanoi, this actually goes back to an earlier machlekes. Ad masay abbas nizainas. Until when is the daughter supported? Ad shetiaris, until she's betrothed. That's the Tanakama. Mishum Rabbi Lazar ad shetibaga, until she reaches maturity. Tani Rabbi Yosef ad dahavyin. And Rabbi Yosef says until the marriage. Okay. When Rabbi Yosef says until the marriage, Ibayelu, Havaya de Irison, Havaya de Nesuin. Which marriage? The Kedushin or the Nesuin, the betrothal or the marriage? Take it, we don't know. We leave it standing. Eliyahu Hanavi will answer what Rabbi Yosef meant. Amalei Rav Chisda Rav Yosef Mishmialach Mineder Rav Yehuda. Have you heard from Rabbi Yehuda the following? Arusa yesh la mazainas, ein la mazainas. In Arusa, her father passed away, and she's living off the estate that her brothers are in charge of. Now, she's eating the food of her brother's estate. Now, does she get sustenance off the estate? Well, the fact is she does have a husband. They're just not fully married yet. She's only betrothed. So should she be eating off the father's estate, off the Arusa's estate? Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef says that I have not heard from Rabbi Yehuda, Mishmele Shmieli. I haven't heard from Rabbi Yehuda what the halacha is. However, logically, she should not get from the estate. Why? Given the titzel. He doesn't want her to go and beg. What's the reason why she's supposed to eat from the father's estate? Because we would rather that the sons would lose out and the sons will go beg than the daughters should have to go beg. It's more appropriate for the men to go out and knock on door to ask for food than for the daughters to do that. So the daughters are going to eat from the estate. We don't want her to have to go beg. Well, what about if she's betrothed? Well, if she's betrothed, the husband doesn't want her to go beg, so he's going to obviously support her. So then she doesn't need to live off the estate. Amalei, which means that she doesn't have to go to live off the estate. So Rav Chisda responds, if you didn't hear this clearly, then Misvara Isla would say exactly the opposite. I would say that she does have the food from the estate. Why? He does not know if he's going to finish this marriage. He's only betrothed to her. That's like an engagement. He may find out that she has a big mum, I don't know, something, big blemish on her.
Betrothal and the engagement are different.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But for whatever reason, he still may say that I didn't realize they haven't lived together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't realize that they have this big like incentive birthmark. Yeah. So he's not going to throw that out for nothing. Okay. Well, he's not going to throw out money for nothing if he's not going to end up marrying her, which means that she does need to live off the estate. Vika da Amri, that those that say Amrale, that his response was, this is Rabbi Yosef's response, that Mishmela Shmieli, I didn't hear from Rabbi Yehuda. However, Misvara Isla, logically she does get from the estate. Given like he doesn't know if he's going to consummate the marriage. Maybe there's going to be a blemish. He's not going to want to throw out his money and for nothing, just to feed her, and then he's not going to end up marrying her. Well, that's the case. She needs to live off the estate. And Amarle, and then Rav Chisda says back, if you didn't hear that, then it should be the opposite. She should not get from the estate. Because he doesn't want, because he's betrothed to her, he doesn't want her to go begging. We have a logic like this, a logic like that, and we have two versions of who said what. Okay, Simon the Gavri. The following Gemara has a bunch of different people that are asking questions. So each letter here that we're about to say has its own Sak Zara. That's going to stand for Rav Sheshes, I think Rish Lakish, Rabbi Lazar, Rava, and Rav Papa. And Miyana V'Yavma Shnia Arusa Vansa. These are the following questions. It's an acronym that a mnemonic for the following, to remember the following page of Gemara. Okay, by my name Rav Sheshes. First question: if a woman, a girl rather, her father passed away and her brothers decided to marry her off. So when she gets married, she doesn't eat off the estate anymore. Now we're seeing a little bit more details here why the brothers are marrying her off, because otherwise she'd be eating off from the estate, and they don't want to support her, so they find a husband for her. So, but then she doesn't like the guy, and so she's allowed to walk out on him. And now she's back. Does she eat from the husband? Does she eat from the father's estate, which is the brothers? An orphan girl. The father passed away, and now the brothers married her up. Well, does she go back to the estate to eat her food? Or not? Rav Sheshes we have a Rav Sheshes says I have a brisa that explains this. It says Almana b'Beis, if there's a widow in her father's house, well, how's she a widow and she's back in the father's house? Probably she was a memanis. She's a Grusha B'Eis, she's a divorcee in her father's house. The husband divorced her. Shemeres Yavam B'Eis, or she's waiting for the to do yibam or chalitza because her husband had passed away. She continues to eat from the father's estate. Rabbi Yehuda says no. If she's still in the father's house, then she gets to eat from the father's estate. If she's not, is still in the father's house, she doesn't eat from the father's estate. Well, problem here is Rabbi Yehuda Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda said exactly the same thing that the Tanakama said, that if she's in the father's house, she eats from the estate. Right?
Why don't you try? What? Why don't you try having that?
If she's still in the father's house. Okay, so 1 second. So the Gemara says, but he didn't say anything different. The Gemara says, Elalav memanasika benayo. What we're really talking about here is Rabbi Yehuda says, still in the father's house means never left. Oh. That's the difference. Versus the Tanakama that says, if she's in the father's house, that means she could have left but returned. Well, if that's the case, then it would work like this. Tanakama savar isla. The Tanakama holds that she does get to eat from the father's estate. Rabbi Yehuda holds lasla that she doesn't get to eat from the father's estate. Why? She left once through the marriage. When she goes back, she remains independent and she doesn't go to eat off the estate. That's the machlekes. She refused the marriage. No, she gets married, and this is a type of rejection of her husband where she doesn't need a divorce. But during that time, that marriage was considered a marriage. Now it's not. When we look back, we don't consider it anything. But during that time, so Rabbi Yehuda would say that's still considered left.
So for some reason, it's not the same concern about her having to go out dating. It's sort of situation.
Yeah. Interesting.
seriously, I need to comment on all this.
Inheritance.
And,
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how mechanically all this works. Let's say the father dies, and then it's obligation to the wife, and then it's obligation to the daughter, and there's the sons.
Right.
So there's this estate that really can't be distributed.
Right.
The obligation to the daughter, well, I guess the obligation to the daughter ends when she's 12 and a half.
Right.
Right. The obligation to the widow can go on for
Right.
a very long time. What would happen then?
Well, in Yehuda, they had a way out. In Yehuda, they would say, well, take the ksuba, and now we don't have to pay for your the sustenance.
She says, soup only required 1 year worth of wages.
Right.
I could live another 50 years.
Right.
Huh.
Okay. So
Gotta marry somebody else.
Boirish Lakish. This is an advertisement, right? If anyone wants estate planning, Yitzi Liebensberger offices of okay. Boirish Lakish. Rish Lakish has a question. Bas Yavama. This is a possibility. It's not officially. I mean, when you think about this, what's Yibum? If a man passed away without children, his wife has to marry the brother. Okay, now the brother married her, and I guess he passed away, but he also left her with the child, the daughter. Well, Yesh Lamazainis, Ein Lamazainis. Can the daughter eat off his estate? If you remember when we learned Yivamas, where does the money for her ksuba come from? The first husband's estate. Yeah, but the ksuba comes from that part of the estate, because he just took over a marriage. So the original ksuba is like still in place. Well, and Lesla, if that's the case, then they didn't have children. He never had an obligation to feed the daughter, the first husband. Or do we say the following? There was a rule that if the first husband's estate could not cover the ksuba, then we do go to the second husband and say, well, he's not here, he died. But we say that, okay, now your estate has to pay for the ksuba. Well, if his estate now has to pay for the ksuba, he does have a daughter. The only problem is that in this situation, we're not going to the second husband to get for the daughter, to get for the wife. Are you going to go just to get for the daughter? In other words, it's not that the first husband's estate doesn't have the money. It has the money for the wife, but there's no obligation for the daughter. So do you go to the second husband to get the obligation? That's the question. And to pay for the daughter's sustenance.
Then this would be a different question if they had a boy, that was a girl.
If they had a boy, then there's an inheritance there. He inherits, the boy inherits. That's a different story. Here we're talking about where there is no inheritance, but can she just live off the estate? Boy, Rabbi Lazar's question. Bas shniya yesh lamazainis ein lamazainis. If someone married a woman that he was not allowed to marry rabbinically, it was a relative that wasn't a close relative, but it was close enough that the rabbis forbade it. A grandmother or something, a grandmother, a great grandmother. Well, then they have a daughter. So, yesh lamazainis ein lamazainis. Do we say that the daughter should be sustained by the estate? Even the less ksuba, do we say that since the mother doesn't get a ksuba because that was a marriage that wasn't allowed, so less lamazainis, so the daughter doesn't get the sustenance either, because the sustenance, it was a condition in the was one of the clauses of the ksuba, and she doesn't have a ksuba. Dilma, ima da of the surah kansur rabbanan, the mother that I'm on top of Nandalit 54. the mother that committed the sin, so they made a penalty on her. She doesn't get a ksuba. But but the daughter, the layab the sur, she did nothing wrong. Like Kansur Rabbanan, there's no penalty on her. She should be able to live off the estate. Take her. We don't have an answer to that either. Boy Rava, Basarusi yesh lamazainis ein lamazainis. If a betrothed husband lives with his fiance, he wasn't supposed to. The marriage wasn't. They didn't have the wedding yet. It was only a kedushin, and she gets pregnant and she has a daughter. Then the guy passed away. The husband passed away. So now, can the daughter live off the estate? We're talking about when he wrote a ksuba. If he wrote a ksuba, then this would apply. Then Isla, then she has the daughter should have the same things that come along with the ksuba, which is that she can live off the estate. Or maybe the rabbis instituted the ksuba from the nesuin, and there was no nesuin. He decided to give the ksuba early, so maybe she shouldn't live off the estate. Doesn't have the full effect of the ksuba. We don't have an answer to this either. Let's say a man raped a girl and he married her, which was the halacha, he's supposed to marry her. Well, then he died, but there's a daughter here. Can the daughter live off the estate? What's the pshaila over here? According to Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda, what's the shaila? If he would divorce her, which he's not allowed, but when he dies, let's say, so she takes a ksuba. So then she has a ksuba. So if she has a ksuba, then the daughter also has the rules of the ksuba, which is that the daughter can eat off the estate. The question is according to the Rabbanan. When he raped her, he already had to pay 50 coins that he had to pay to her father. According to the Rabbanan, that is the ksuba. He doesn't have to pay. Now, if he dies, he doesn't have to pay her anything. So now, what about if the daughter living off the estate? If there's no ksuba, maybe the daughter doesn't have to. Maybe he doesn't have to support the daughter either. Since there's no ksuba, so there's no mazainis. What was the reason why there's no ksuba? Why did the sages institute the ksuba? So that it should not be easy for him to divorce her. Otherwise, every time she burns the food, she's going to say, "Okay, next wife." So they say, "No, 1 second, you have to pay $20,000 if you want to do that." So it's okay, fine, let's try again, make dinner again. So the marriage hopefully will last a lot longer than one meal. So, but in this case, because he raped her, he's never allowed to divorce her anyway. He had a rule that if a man rapes a girl, he has to stay married to her. He has to marry her if she wants, but if she's willing. So then he can't divorce her anyway, just like quick divorce. So if that's the case, there's no ksuba, but it's not necessary to have a ksuba. But that doesn't mean that the daughter shouldn't get the sustenance. We just didn't require the ksuba because it wasn't necessary, but the daughter should still get the sustenance.
Is this sustenance only when the wife's father passes away and she gains inheritance from the estate?
No. Here we're talking about this most probable case, the regular case would be that the husband and wife, with sons and daughters and everything, the husband passed away. The sons inherit everything, and there's these daughters or a daughter that doesn't have where to go, so that officially she's supposed to be able to live off the estate.
Okay.
Now that's what we're dealing with. The question is, when all these things, when it's not perfectly matched up like that, if it was just a betrothal and this, can the daughter still live off the estate? That's it. Okay. Ate Yasva Besi Chulu. And you will sit in my house. Talking to the wife after he passes away. He writes in the Tzuba that if he passes away, she can still live on the property. Tani Rav Yosef taught b'beisi v'lei b'biksi. Only if he has a house, but not if he has like a hut. If there's no place for the sons to live, if he has a house and they can all live in there, okay, good. But if it's just a hut and it's either the sons or the wife, so the sons are going to say, well, the wife should go live somewhere else. Aval mezayne yisla, but she's still going to get sustenance, right? Marbar Ravashi Amar afilu mezayne nami lesla. Marbar Ravashi says if she doesn't live in the house, then she doesn't have the second part. It's one sentence. You will live in the house and live and eat from the estate. But if she doesn't live in the house because there is no house, then she also doesn't get the sustenance. Mar says Marbar Ravashi. Then Allah is not like Marbar Ravashi. She does get sustenance. Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman says name Shmuel Tavuli Nasei. Very interesting. If someone comes to the wife, is now the widow, and says, "Will you marry me?" And she agrees. Well, Ein Lamasainas. She's finished with her husband's estate. She's off the payroll.
Even though
She's not married yet. Not married yet, but she made it very obvious that she's on her own. She's left. If she wants to stay a widow because of the dedication to her husband, then fine, she can still live there. But obviously, she doesn't want to be a widow. She wants to get married. So now she's on her own. But if she doesn't agree, then she would still have the money. The way the Gemara writes this is like it sounds like a rhetorical question. She still has the money. That's the way. Is there a question mark in your Gemara? No, I'm not sure why not. I mean, she didn't agree to anything. But let's see. Amali Rav Anan Lididi Mefashli Minei Demar Shmuel. It was explained to me what Shmuel said. Amra Machmas Pleni Baili. If she says the reason why I don't want to get married is because I'm still dedicated to my husband that passed away, then Yesh Lamazainas, then she still gets sustenance. She's still part of that estate. Machmas Bnei Adam Shenim Maganimla. The problem is she was dating. That's the issue. That's what the rhetoric. So, but if it's because I just don't like him, he's not a good guy. So then, Ein Lamazainas, she's already out. She sees she was trying to get married. Amar Rav Chizda Zin Ein Lamazainas. If she had relations with someone, calls it nus. I mean, she's not married, but she has relations with someone, so she doesn't get any more food from the estate. That was a bad mistake. Now she's off the payroll. Okay. Amar Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef says that if she puts on makeup, her eyes, she doesn't get any more food from the estate. Manda Amar Zinsa, one that says that if she has relations with another man, for sure if she's wearing makeup, she doesn't get any more payroll. We'll see why. But the one that says makeup, she doesn't get any more from the estate. But if she has relations with someone, she still gets my time a yetzer ansa. You see, that was just a mistake. She had relations with someone. Doesn't mean she doesn't want to stay married to her husband. Well, her husband died, but it doesn't mean she doesn't want to stay loyal to her husband. No, she made a mistake. But if you see she's putting on makeup, that's more than a mistake. That's not she's trying to get married.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different story. But let's say the Allah is not like all of these. Only like what Rabbi Yehuda said, name of Shmuel, if she comes to Bezdin and she says, I want my ksuba, then she's off the estate. Why? She's trying to move out. She wants the ksuba, she wants to go independent. The Gemara says, Belay, and that's I think it means, and that's not other cases. But Tanya, how do they translate Belay over there? Not. Let me see what it says.
Does not.
Oh, and does she not receive sustenance when she asks for her ksuba? Oh, she asks for her ksuba. So the Gemara says that now she doesn't receive sustenance. The Gemara says she doesn't. 1 second, we have a brisa machar ksubasa. If she sold her ksuba, mashchina. She what's that mean? She gave it as a collateral. Mashchina ksubasa. Also ksubasa paitsky, or she made a ksuba a place for someone to collect the debt, lacher to someone else. So then ein la mezainis. Then she doesn't get any more sustenance. Honey in only in those cases. Aval tivas loy, but if she just claims the ksuba, then she should still be able to get sustenance. The Gemara says no. Hani bein bebezdin, bein shlei bebezdin. Those she loses her sustenance when she plays around with the ksuba like that. She's giving it out to other people, and so then even if it's not in bezdin, but tivas the bezdin shlei bebezdin loy. Once she asks for the ksuba, if she asks for it in bezdin, then that means that she's trying to move out to her own, and she doesn't live off this. She cannot live off this state anymore. Okay.
Shkech, thank you.
Good day.
Good day.
Tzlacha.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, a widow would dress in a certain way. She's not dressing like a widow.
Rabbi, didn't we learn though that after the age of